So thank you both for for taking time out. We're here to talk about the other people screening at Fright Fest. So I imagine that there's lots of sort of like pre-festival preparation. So thank you so much for taking the time. I guess the first question is how are you feeling about the selection at Fright Fest and screening in the UK?
I mean, I'm absolutely overjoyed. The the thought that this film would, in the way in which we made it, would make it all the way to this big, huge festival in London is incredible.
Yeah, kind of a awesome dream um, to be able to go with the McClarnon brothers across the pond and hang out. Yeah, really excited to just spend some time in London as well.
Yeah, and the theater looks amazing.
Mm.
What an
Yeah,
incredible space to screen in.
yeah, the Odeons are incredible. I think one of them is James Cameron's preferred cinema.
Oh,
So it's
Great.
maybe he'll be there.
well, yeah, who knows? He loves the theater. Maybe he'll sneak in for a few films. Um,
Sure, let's invite him.
For ours.
yeah,
Yeah.
James, if you're listening, if you're watching, we can get you a ticket. I'm pretty sure we can get you a ticket. Um,
Absolutely. He can
I
have
guess,
mine.
Yeah.
I guess, for those people that haven't done their homework, how have you been pitching the other people to everybody?
The simplest pitch is that it's a film about other people that live in your house. That's that's basically the source of all problems in the film.
It is a terrifying idea, and I know that the film opens with it inspired by real events. Was there a particular case that kind of inspired the story, or was it just a sequence of them?
It's much more a sequence of them. There's several. As we started putting together this story, um, we did a lot of research. Obviously, you do a lot of research when you write a movie. And in the research process, I mean, we found that we like 30, 40 easily of occasions of other people living sort of secretly and and not like sometimes it's like in the crawl space or in the attic or but other times it's just like they sleep in the closet or they sleep in a you know there's a famous one of a cabinet in the kitchen that the guy recorded the lady. Like there's secret rooms that homeowners didn't know existed because they've been walled in by some previous tenant or something that somebody finds and they just hole up in there and live often for years. Um, and so we sort of made a film that imagines that happens those stories are the discovery of sort of a greater thing, essentially. That a lot of people live this way secretly, and most of them are never found.
Yeah, it's terrifying. And Lindy, what was it about the story and the character that spoke to you and made you want to get involved?
Well, the script came to me at an interesting time in my career. I had just quit acting. Um, and it was like 6 months after I quit, and I was just feeling like maybe I could go back to acting if the right kind of roles came along. And then Chad sends along this script, and I read it and just loved it. I mean, as a horror fan myself, I just thought, Rachel is so complex and the story is so bizarre and deeply unsettling. That's the kind of horror I like, to be really unsettled in myself. Um, and so, yeah, I mean, to actually like hook me in though, Chad sent me a very nice email along with the offer. And we have a mutual friend who I worked with before, and he also sent me an email being like, these guys aren't crazy, they're legit, take them seriously. And I'm so glad I did because it was like one of the best filming experiences of my career so far. Would work with them again any day.
And Rachel, like I say, she is a very complex character. I mean, she is, she joins this family unit. She is this is the stepmother to this little girl, but I don't know, she kind of almost seems more invested in the child's safety than the father does. So that's quite an interesting dynamic there. Although she's not blood, she is very much the protector for this young girl.
That's one of the things that I fell in love with most about the film. As someone who doesn't like, I don't have children of my own, and I've, I'm not, I consider adopting someday. I just feel like anything that represents ties that are beyond blood really, really speak to me. And mother-daughter relationships are always wonderful to explore. But yeah, the ties that bind just through like being a human being and loving someone without them being blood is really important, I think, to represent. And it really drives the film. It's really about that relationship.
100%. I mean, there are obviously these, these scare sequences within it. You've got a young co-star, you've got a young actor. How do you kind of, go about making that fun for them so that, you're not sort of traumatizing them for life? Because I always kind of look at some of these films that, that the horror films that some young kids are in, and it's like, how did they do that when they were young? And I guess it is that thing of, making sure that they understand it's pretend, right?
Well, so a couple of the major scare sequences that involve Valentina, our wonderful young actress, we shot in the fall and shot over Halloween, and so we essentially just saved a lot of the big sort of set piece scare sequences to do all on one day, and we shot it literally on Halloween, and so. Everybody was in costume. She was in costume until she got into the costume for the film. And we were having trick-or-treaters coming by the crafty table. um,
That's right. I forgot about that.
they did, yeah, they were just coming by crafty thinking that it was out for them and getting, little Nutri-Grain bars and so in that, like we're attempting to make it as absolutely fun as possible. But then, of course, in the end, we didn't actually need to do that because Valentina is certainly a pro, but also she was having an absolute blast with it. Everything about it she knew was pretend. None of this is really happening. And then, any of the more um, physical sequences that would have were sort of safety concerns we would have. um, uh, we had stand-ins and special, uh, stunt coordinators and all that stuff to make sure that everything was safe.
And with the exception of a couple of scenes, Rachel is essentially, inside this house. As an actor, being in that space, did that help you access the character and make you identify with what she's experiencing more easily? Because she kind of gets married and then she kind of almost ends up trapped in this house.
Hmm. I hadn't really thought about it like that before. But yeah, being confined like that, there were so many, all of us were in there. This is an indie production. We didn't have trailers. We didn't have places for the crew to go hang out. It was also like COVID times, so we had to be really careful with masks. And so everything felt very confining. And it actually probably did um, help me feel that sense of like, of trappedness. I'm sorry, I'm a little distracted because I do see a man in overalls coming in to work on the back room. He's here very early, and he's leaving now. He just pet my dog so that we could go back to some quiet. But yeah, your house, Chad, where we shot this, is
Mhm.
very. There's a lot of hallways. Yeah, and so there's a lot of places to like peek behind, and the geography of the space was really, really helpful and spooky. Yeah.
I mean, that kind of leads me on to, my next question. It was, how did you find the house? Did you have the house before,
I
before
mean,
you were away?
you're this
Yeah.
we're in the house now. Welcome to it. This is it. This is where I live.
I mean, does that just make it, even more, unnerving that you've written this, you've made this film with people hiding in the house? Are you now sort of like Did you kind of start like reassessing everything? You have you gone closetless,
Well, yeah, the funny you should say yes. Um, so we've completely remodeled the house. I could walk you through it. It doesn't look the same at all, as it does in the movie. But um, when we were writing the film, like we we wanted it to work. Like we didn't want to do film tricks where somebody just boom just shows up out of nowhere, and it's that there's a sort of like, whether or not there's a supernatural element to this story, I think is up for interpretation. But as far as our uh, side goes, we wanted this to be a thing that human beings can do. And I think that ends up having to be very space specific. And so for the purposes of the writing of the script, we just started writing it as though we were shooting it in my house, because we were writing it in my house. And so, we could just be like, oh, well, if we maybe they go here and they could go there, and to be able to get around to this other part for this scene, where would they go? It's like, well, let's just go and look in the room and figure out where it is. Always with the intention that we were going to have to go back and rewrite those sequences for whatever location we found. And then when we got around into pre-production, we couldn't find another location. We couldn't find anything that had any similarity to be able to do the kinds of scenes that we have. And the big thing is that the downstairs in my home has a complete circle around a staircase. And so like we really tried to make the geography of the home a very clear picture in the film, and that you can understand that this room leads to that and that room leads to that, and so that somebody can come in and do something in the kitchen and then run over to the den and then come back to the living room and disappear, like that's possible for them to do, that there's a place for them to go. And so it ended up being shot here out of narrative necessity, because I couldn't find a geography that worked with the scare moments we had written. And then, it was creepy to live in this house before. So I think that, and we wrote it in my house because I see weird stuff at night. So like that's actually lessened since we shot the film, because now, I've given the scares to everybody else, hopefully. And then it's been extra unnerving this past year, because essentially since I think November or December of last year, my wife and I have actually been sleeping in Abby's room, in the little girl's room in the house, because we're doing renovations as well. And that room is still entirely set up like it is in the movie. All of the furniture is the same. The little desk is still there.
Hank's just in the corner.
Yeah, right. Just sleeping. If you wake up at like 3 a.m, just in the middle of the night, it gets a little hairy in that room.
I think that's also something that, that horror films do so well is, there are those films that you watch them and maybe you get a little bit unnerved in a couple of scenes as you're watching them, but it's the films that you then take home with you. And then when you do wake up at like 3 a.m. to go to the toilet, suddenly some sequence or image from the film hits into your brain and then that's it. You can't sleep. And I think that this is definitely a film that has that kind of potential because it's people kind of secretly hiding in your house like you don't know so it's very disturbing.
Yeah, thank you for that. It was a very big goal for us for this film, because like, there's a lot of images in like all these classic movies, Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th, but like you can, when you wake up late at night and those things scare you, you can tell yourself, well, Freddy's not real. And it doesn't necessarily alleviate your fear in the moment, but your fear isn't tactile in the way that it would be if you're like actually Freddy Krueger's in the hallway is actually less scary than a man I don't know is in the hallway.
Mm.
Because one of them's fun and the other one is very threatening.
Mm. There's also the fear of like not being believed in this movie,
Mm.
of your loved ones not believing you. Being gaslit is pretty terrifying. Um, I think you do that really well, Chad. Not gaslight people, but direct.
Sure. Yeah. Well, the men in this movie are not very effective.
Well, there's the whole sequences, where Rachel realizes that, the peanut butter has been used through and nobody else is eating the peanut butter, but the peanut butter is going down and it's that sort of gaslighting though thing. Something is happening here. I don't know what's happening here, but this, you can't argue with this. She's marking the things like this is going down. I can't explain it. Help me explain it. But yeah, she's kind of just left on her own to slowly unravel.
hmm Yeah, and it's bigger than just herself because of Abby the whole time. The driving force is Abby.
And I guess, right now, Fright Festers, they're working out what they're buying tickets for, what they're going to watch on their schedule. Why do you each hope that they add the other people to their list?
Um, hmm. What's the question again?
Why do you hope that people, take a chance on this film? Because obviously there's a few films playing at the festival. Why do you hope that
Oh
they
yeah,
add
yeah.
this
So
one?
the people that are coming to Fright Fest, why
Mhm.
should they come see the other people? Because it's going to scare your socks off. Like we we had a screening, um, our sort of first screening we did here in Nashville, and we had um someone the next morning text my brother, who's we co-wrote the film together. Um, the text said, "I woke my husband up in the middle of the night screaming."
Oh my God.
That like in just they had seen the movie, they had no idea what it was. This is somebody that was brought by as a plus one of someone, and she was so terrified that for that night and I think multiple nights, she had such night terrors that she was screaming in her sleep. um, so I think that the audience for Fright Fest should come and see if that happens. I think.
Yeah, I would say come see it because it's a really well constructed film. It's like there are so many little nuggets in there that are really, really satisfying to put together. And then just from a personal perspective, it's one of my favorite performances.
It should be. It should be. I
So,
mean, the real answer to the question is Lyndie Greenwood is the reason to come and see this movie.
yeah, yeah, I'm really proud of it, and it's a movie that I would recommend to everyone if even if I weren't in it. So come see.
Cool. Well, best of luck with the screening and thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely. And if you come to the screening, I'll give you an enamel pin. They're cool.
Oh,
I know.
swag as well.
That's
Nice.
Yeah, we have swag. Here, wait, I'll grab one. I'll grab one and show it. That'll be good, right?
The Fright
That'll be
Festers do
good.
love that they do love a freebie. So yeah,
I
that's
mean, come
what they're
on. We
getting.
got we got two kinds. Look at this. What do we have here? Bated breath,
Snap
everyone.
it.
Here we go. Look. Boom. Look
Boop.
at that.
Nice.
Ooh, spooky. There's one. Hold on, hold on, hold on. And we have like a scary eyeball one too. If you come to the screening and you find me or you find Lindy or anybody from our team, you can get one of these cool enamel pins.
Whose eyeball is that?
Hmm. Hmm.
Nice.
Oh,
So yeah,
that's we got
get
we
your
got
tickets.
swag.
Yeah, get your tickets, everyone.